Hey, what's up guys, it's Tekosaur. So finally, I got in my hands on one of Samsung's latest Neo QLED TVs for 2024, the QN90D 43-inch TV. You guys may know that the last year I reviewed its predecessor, the QN90C, and heavily praised it for its bright vivid HDR image and deep black levels, which are very similar to an OLED quality. It wasn't perfect by any means, as the panel has some latency issues leading to some ghosting effect in certain scenarios, mostly in document browsing and scrolling. In this video instead, we'll take a look at its successor, the QN90D 43-inch. So I'll be sharing a lot of fine details that will give you a comprehensive idea about it and hopefully helping you in making the decision into buying it or not. So let's get started. Opening the box, you will find its stand arm with a removable cover to hide screw holes and give it a neat looking. And this is the disc stand. What I love about it is that they include a stand made for an up to 50-inch TV. So having this stand for a 43-inch TV will certainly provide better sturdiness on the desk and is less likely to wobble around. You will then find this accessory bag with a power cable, a common interface reader, and Samsung solar-powered Echo remote. You can also charge it via USB Type-C. It's quite identical to the one that comes with the QN90C. Just I noticed that it has a better grip texture down here. The texture feels like brushed plastic and actually quite good. Now I want to show you something. If I put a little bit of pressure on the back, you will see how it's a bit unreinforced. I'm not saying it's that bad, but for example on the Neo G7 43-inch monitor, also by Samsung, it just feels quite tighter. Now anyway, for inputs you have two of USB 3, an optical audio port, 4 HDMI 2.1 port running at 144 Hz, with one of them supporting eARC. Also you have a LAN and antenna port. And here you can install the common interface. If you choose to wall mount it, you will need a 200x200 VESA mount. Instead, if you want to install it on its base stand, it goes right in here. To install it, remove the top cover and make sure to slide the top part here as you place it in. Make sure it's in and just tighten it using the included 4 screws. I recommend to not over tighten them to avoid extra pressure on internals and the possibility of causing a dirty screen or uniformity issues. So just leave a little bit of room. Install the back cover and it's good to go. So mine came with a plastic peel, so just remove them to avoid overheating, and it also came with a panel plastic cover. If yours didn't come with one, don't try to peel anything off to avoid damaging the screen. The depth of this TV is 1.3 cm. And much like the QN90C. For soundbar clearance, make sure it's 7 cm in height. Any higher wouldn't fit on the disc mount if you plan to install it underneath the TV. As you can see, it has an anti-reflection coating, so it will minimize sun reflection and room light, so you can put it anywhere without an issue. And here you can see how light reflects. The pixel structure on this one is PGR, so blue, green, red, exactly just like the QN90C. And we are in. Right off the bat, you will notice that the operating system is pretty snappy and responsive. As you can see, it's a very smooth experience giving you a good navigation. It's also running the latest Tizen OS version. On the left menu, we have other sections. Let's get started first by visiting the gaming one. Here you can access cloud gaming services such as Xbox, GeForce Now, etc. Additionally, your connected gaming consoles will be here as well. Down here, you can watch some live streams. You can also connect a controller via Bluetooth easily, change audio output, and use Spotify music player. So yeah, that's a gaming hub for you. Next one we have is the Daily Plus. It packs some stuff such as Samsung Smart Things, where you can control your smart devices. Workplace give you a way to connect to other devices, like for a Windows PC by using 3 ways. Easy connection, installing Samsung Companion on Windows, and there is also a manual connection or Windows native screen sharing. You can also connect over a Mac. And finally, if you have a Samsung smartphone or tablet, you can turn this TV into a desktop experience by using Samsung DeX. It also has Microsoft 365 web service. This way, you will have your Microsoft apps there as well. So when it comes to productivity, this TV can easily work without a PC for some simple tasks. I also saw that it has now support for Philips Hue Sync. Unfortunately, I don't have any Philips Hue device, so I can't try it out for you. Anyway, let's head off now to our next section. which is the ambient mode. There are tons of background, whether it's video, photo, solid color to match your room color, etc. You can also specify ambience depending on the time of the day by making routines. You can also control brightness and assign a timer. Okay, so now that we covered all sections, let's hit what we have down here. So we got connected devices. Here you can control your input, like change their name or category icon, as well as using your Samsung remote as a universal remote or other devices. If you press the settings button once, it will open this menu where you can dial numbers, etc. Pressing on gear, we can enable lots of features such as change all of picture, sound, intelligent, and saving mode. Also, you have control over Bluetooth devices here, Wi-Fi, multi-view, sleep timer, game mode, power and energy, subtitle, picture clarity, audio language, digital output, contrast enhancer, color tone, picture size, PIP, color space, and finally support. So this is like your easy-to-go settings bar. Now I want to go over a cool feature, which is the multi-view. Here you can show an input and another window at the same time. For example, I have my PC on the left and on the right YouTube app running on TV. You can change the input source, maximize the screen, change its size, turn it into a PIP, swap windows, and move it around. You can also change the audio balance settings for both and finally switch to full screen. So lots of options going on here. To make your own view, click here. You can choose between side-by-side or PIP. Now the downside is that you can't choose between two HDMI sources. So you can choose an HDMI source and a smart feature like YouTube, an internet browser, phone screen mirroring, webcam, or you can choose screen mirroring on PC. So that's the only downside, that it lets you only choose between one HDMI input and other things like a smart feature. But if you choose TV antenna or Samsung TV Plus, this way you can include HDMI inputs as well. Nevertheless, I still find it quite cool feature to have. As I play, I can watch videos on YouTube, etc. So overall, it's a useful feature to have. Alright, so I guess we are done with the smart features. Let's get to what this TV is capable of. So we'll get to settings now. Naturally, starting first with picture. I'm currently connected on PC and using game mode. Let's go to expert settings. Here I've maxed out brightness and contrast and left sharpness to default. So as you can see, with PC and game mode on, some settings such as picture clarity are disabled. For local dimming, you can choose between low, standard, and high. You can see here on the one example how with low it was barely visible and quite dim. Changing it to standard made it a bit visible, and ultimately at high, it's clearly more visible. So with my humble experience with Samsung TVs, I can say that local dimming is getting much better with every generation. And now thanks to their trained algorithms and AI chip, I feel there is an upgrade in this part. It's giving me a much better experience with local dimming overall, therefore I highly recommend keeping it on the high setting. Now on to the next setting we have, which is the contrast enhancer, giving us three selections with off, low, and high. You can see with off how the pot looks. On low it improved a bit, and on high it gives a deeper black contrast, so I recommend keeping this one on high as well. On PC I have native HDR enabled. In that case, auto HDR remastering will be disabled. But if you are running an input in SDR, you can toggle on the auto HDR remastering feature, which basically uses some algorithm that converts SDR content into HDR-like, giving vivid colors and improving contrast. I already did a test of it on the QN90C in 3 different scenarios. On Nintendo Switch being an SDR gaming console, in some old movies, and anime. So if you are curious to see it in action, you can check those videos out to see the difference. Instead, when you have native HDR on, you can choose tone mapping between static and active. I remember reading some said that tone mapping on static was better in Samsung previous QLED TVs, but I guess Samsung has now fixed it, because actually active looks totally brilliant in comparison. In person, you can immediately tell the good difference it makes. It's like giving a better HDR experience overall, enhancing and enriching colors, as well as giving a more defined shadows. Next setting we have is the fail mode, which can be on as said here if your input signal is set on TV or using an HDMI at 1080i. Of course, on PC mode it will be off. You can also change the color tone to your personal preference. For me, I prefer a cooler image. But anyway, you can also fine-tune the white balance, shifting RGB gain and offset. Now I want to note that for PC, the gamma mode used is ST.2084, so gamma mode will depend on your input. For others, it may be at 2.2 or other selections to choose from, but on PC, it's the only possible choice. You can also fine-tune the gamma offset and shadow detail to deepen or brighten black. Next we have is the color space setting. You can choose between native, auto, and custom. Now here you can see the difference for yourself. I personally recommend keeping it at native because for me, automate colors look dull and washed up, while native is better for color visibility. You can additionally use the custom mode to make your own tuning as well. The new setting I found is the color booster feature. Basically, it will give you saturation stepping, providing some waved and enriched colors. Of course, over camera capture, you may be seeing it oversaturated, but in real life, it looks much better. I apologize for the lack of equipment to give it its true value. But anyways, I recommend giving this feature a try. I have it set on high, and for that reason, I lowered down the default color slider to 20 instead of default 25, as colors look much natural to me this way. Additionally, it supports smart calibration, which will use your phone camera and software algorithm to calibrate it further. But I guess on PC, this gets disabled. Now the last thing we have here is the ability to reset all of those settings. So that's it for picture. On to the next section, which is the audio one. Here of course you can change the output. Also if you got a Samsung soundbar, you can set up EQ Symphony right in here. Going to expert settings, we can change audio balance, fine-tune the equalizer. I think the integrated TV speakers do not support it. Here you can also change the audio output format, adjust audio delay, and it also has Dolby Atmos as well. Some cool feature I found is the auto volume in order to avoid sudden volume increase. And if you are annoyed by the TV feedback volume, you can decrease it here. Also a good feature is that here you can make it in a way that your audio device connected via optical port will always output sound alongside the TV. So in this way, you can have a dual sound set up. Let's exit audio and get to connection. Here you can change the TV name, network, Bluetooth, stuff like this. Let's get to something which is more interesting found in the game mode settings, because I need to show you some cool stuff in here. So I have game mode currently on. For gaming mode, you have a dedicated surround sound feature as well as dynamic black equalizer to improve dark details. I find it such a neat feature that not only improves black but also makes the overall picture much nicer. I hope my camera is able to capture the good difference it makes, but anyway, I have it all the way to 5. But I will say from 3 to 5 sounds optimal to me. Now on PC, Game Motion Plus settings are disabled, but on gaming consoles such as the PS5 and the Nintendo Switch, it will be enabled as we'll see later on. Instead, in Game Picture Expert, you can toggle on HDR 10 Plus Gaming. I've also set it to Advanced, as well as Game HDR complies with the HGIG standard for HDR gaming. The new addition I found is that before it was just turning it on and off. Now you have the Advanced setting. And I found that setting it to Advanced has improved brightness further. Another addition is this minimap auto detection that recognizes the location of the game minimap when using the minimap zoom feature that you can enable via the gaming bar. We'll get to now by pressing the play button once when having game mode on. So this is the game bar itself. Let's go over the settings we have here. So if you don't have HDR enabled, you can change the game picture depending on the game genre. Here you can toggle the virtual aim, change the screen ratio, and here is the minimap zoom that now has the auto detection feature. More settings will be the same menu from before. Game Motion Plus is the picture clarity one, which is off for PC but enabled for consoles. And you can change the sound output here as well. Down here you can see some info like the current input lag, which is currently set to fastest, resolution set to 4K, FPS to 120, HDR on, and variable refresh rate or VRR is on. Now I want to note that on gaming mode, you can set it at 144 Hz refresh rate, but color depths will be limited to 10 bpc. While if you go with 120 Hz, you can use further 12 color beat. I will personally pick the 120 Hz refresh rate, as we'll see there is a killer feature that you will miss on if you have it set on 144 Hz. Let's leave the gaming menu to show you what I mean. By heading to External Device Manager, there is this feature called HDMI black level. We can switch between low and normal. Auto is exactly the same as normal, but switching to low, you will notice it immediately improves black levels, especially on Windows. For those of you that tried HDR on Windows, you'll know what I mean. Like when you enable HDR on Windows, usually colors feel washed up. This setting completely eliminates that kind of effect. I really love the low black level it has now. It's like a killer feature in my opinion, and you can see the difference for yourself. But there is a catch. This feature may be blocked. As you can see, it says it can't be used in game mode, but to fix this issue, we'll need to have a refresh rate set at 120Hz. You can also set 12 PBC optionally. But when you have it this way, even with the game mode on, you can use the HDMI black level feature. I highly recommend you give it a try. And for that reason, before I use the dynamic black equalizer to fine-tune black levels. After setting the HDMI black levels option to low, I will say from 3 to 5 will give you optimal quality with HDMI black level set to low. Also here in external devices, make sure to have input signal plus toggled on for all input which extend signal for HDR. Alright, let's save that section now. And here is the broadcast. You just find stuff related to the common interface and antenna, etc. In general section, you have the accessibility setting and the intelligent mode settings, where you have some various options for enabling adaptive picture, eye comfort, voice amplifier, adaptive sound pro, and of course they are all disabled on game mode with PC on, except for adaptive volume. Just for demonstration, if we turn off game mode, you can see the sound pro and voice amplifier pro are possible to use on PC with game mode off. Now exiting that, here in voice you can choose your preferred assistant between Samsung Bixby and Amazon Alexa. In the system manager, you can change stuff such as time, language, login using Samsung account, change the pin, in power and energy saving. You have lots of power saving features to control brightness, etc. I usually disable all to make sure to have a good image at all time, but I've enabled screensaver and auto power off after 4 hours. Here you can also see your remote charging rate. But there is this setting called the remote grip sensor option that got me quite confused. Like, I don't even get what it means. Its description is not helping and somehow funny. Anyway, let's leave it at that. And here is the start screen options. You can choose if you want to show the home screen or switch immediately to input as soon as you turn on the TV. So since I use it mainly for PC, so I'll turn that off. Our final section is a support where you can update the software, and also always make sure to have the auto update toggled on to ensure you get the latest features and fixes. As of time of recording this video, I have the software version 1066. Now in device care, you can scan for issues, manage storage, perform self-diagnosis, etc. Now upon scanning, it will show you the issues you have. In my case, it was that auto volume was off, so it turned it on, and the auto power off was disabled, so it enabled it. Here at the end, you got some guides, and if you are facing issues with your TV, you can request Samsung Remote by toggling this option, which will allow the operator handling your issue to remotely access and troubleshoot your TV. It's a good feature in case you ever need it. And finally, at the very bottom, we got the About window. Now to show you on PC, if I turn off the game mode, I can still use the HDMI black level as well here too, along with HDR. Also when game mode is off, heavy stream media switching option can be used. And in picture settings, you will now have 2 modes to choose from, entertainment and graphic. Now since we disabled game mode and lost access to dynamic black equalizer, here instead you can use the shadow detail option to fine-tune your black details. A very important thing to note that in case you are going to use this TV in HDR on PC, make sure to calibrate it right. Windows has this app called Windows HDR Calibration. It's easy to follow. Just adjust the backlight brightness until it's not visible, just like any other HDR calibration method. At the end, it will show you the before and after image. Make sure it's selected here in the display settings or by going to the color management window and here set it as the default one. Now with HDR calibrated, I'll show you some picture quality demo. Now the way I see it, image quality is really great on the QN90D 43-inch. Everything looks bright, colors are vivid, feels so rich and popping. Let's not forget the deep blacks that are almost identical to an OLED panel thanks to the contrast enhancer. and the advancement in the local dimming algorithm. At 4K, image is quite crisp, sharp, and clear. It easily ticks all image quality checks once calibrated right. Let's get on to some more tests. You can see the gradient test here. There are no color banding issues. All colors are represented well, from red to green to blue. Checking the black screen, you will see how deep blacks are. It's almost as if pixels are turned off. I also noticed that white uniformity is awesome on this one. I don't know if I was just lucky with panels this time, but I don't see any dirty screen effect, and color temperature is quite balanced, like it doesn't look neither cool or warm totally. Now, speaking of one downside to this TV is that it's using a VA panel. While contrasts are great, but we have seen also on the QN90C that the viewing angles aren't that impressive. You can see if we face it in the middle how the circles look. Now, if we look from the right angle, we see how circles are shifting and colors are quite blooming. The same thing is happening if we switch on to the left side. So being a VA panel, you can expect that viewing angles aren't going to be so great. Here is an actual footage. You can see as I walk in how clouds are just blooming, and when I got to the middle, they become just fine. Or also in this footage, look at the tree trunk, it's a bit tinted with yellow, and when I go to the right, it got tinted with green. So if you're going to put this TV in a room and others will watch from different sides, it's not going to give them an ideal experience. For text sharpness, I really have no complaints. Text is pretty clear on a 4K resolution in both white and black background, but you can see some red and blue shadows on letters. Not really that prominent, but if you zoom a lot, you are going to see it. I think it's doing a great job at dimming zones, and the high setting gave me the best result of dimming, so it's better to keep it that way. Can't call this a test without checking input lag and ghosting. And just like the QN90C, I didn't feel there has been an improvement in the panel latency. So whether I use game mode on or off, 144Hz is giving me some ghosting in the UFO test. In everyday tasks like browsing the internet, scrolling up and down news or document, it will immediately feel odd, and honestly saying, it's the biggest downside to this TV in my opinion. If it had a lower latency, I think I would have recommended to pretty much everyone. So if you are highly sensitive to input lag, I think an OLED TV will be better for you. While in gaming or media consumption, it will not show up, but mostly in the productivity and desktop tasks, it will. as well as web browsing. Like you can see, when I scroll down slowly, nothing bad happens. But when I start to scroll a bit faster, at certain degree, you will see a lot of text trailing effect giving so much inconvenience. But when you scroll way too fast, you will not see anything at all. Just like at certain speed, you will notice it mostly. And it's the same case with game mode on or off at any refresh rate. But again, I repeat that in games or media consumption like watching, it's not clear at all. It will show up mostly when you use it for office tasks and web browsing. With this high refresh rate, this TV is more than capable for gaming. Also here I'll show you something cool I discovered with it running on Cyberpunk 2077. Of course, with HDR10 PQ, you will also see this option here called HDR10 Plus Gaming. Enabling it will improve HDR quality further. And you guys can see like the quality on this is phenomenal. Colors are popping, image is crisp and really looks awesome, and you don't notice any ghosting whatsoever. It's totally amazing experience for me, and I'm not even exaggerating. Also, if you choose to use a PS5 on it, it will automatically detect it and list its input in the gaming hub section. Here are my PS5 picture settings with game mode on. Not quite different than PC, but in gaming consoles, like I said before, you have the Game Motion Plus settings enabled. So basically, it could help removing some blur and juddering. There's also this LED clear motion setting that is made for FPS games, but it actually dims image quite a lot, since it's turning off the backlight. Now the nice thing about the QN90D is that it supports all PS5 display standards, etc. I've set the RGB range to full and also did the HDR calibration. Image looks really gorgeous and no issues with ghosting. Now I don't know how to describe it to you guys, but to me, playing Horizon Forbidden West on such a good mini LED TV like the QN90D is such a unique experience. Like as the machine eye shines at you, you feel it's strangely bright. I can't even describe it, but HDR just feel amazing on the PS5 with the QN90D. Now connecting it to the Nintendo Switch, unlike the PS5, it won't be automatically detected. Instead, it will be listed as a generic HDMI input. But don't worry, there is a workaround if you want to change its category to a gaming console. Here when it lists all input, go to the HDMI input of it, down here press edit. Here you can change its category to a game console. Also you can change the name, so I'll change mine to Switch. To the Switch on settings, I have TV resolution set to 1080p and make sure to set RGB range to full. Here you can see the difference between limited and full range. It feels like shadow looks much better with full range. And I also recommend using game mode on here as well. This way, you can use the dynamic black equalizer to fine-tune black, along with altering HDMI black level. However, on the Switch, I found that it's better to set it as normal or auto, instead of low. Perhaps due to the low HDMI bandwidth the Switch support, or maybe because it's only HDR, or maybe it's the cartoony graphics, I'm not sure. And you guys know that the Switch is capped at 30 FPS, so as other modern high-end TVs, by using the Game Motion Plus setting, it can significantly remove the judder and blurry looking, giving us a 60 FPS-like experience. You can feel how smoother it became by turning that option on. Let me now show you some other settings, how they look here. For example, contrast enhancer, with it off, white and dark areas just look dull and unclear. With high option, it's way more defined and clear. And as the Switch support only SDR, you can take advantage of the Auto HDR remastering feature. Like for example, this rock here just got more defined. Also the Switch, I also recommend setting color space to native, because on auto, things such as grass look more saturated, and basically everything turned greenish all of a sudden. And it looks as if Link has a fever. And here you can see the difference with color booster as well. So yeah guys, that was it for the QN90D 43-inch from Samsung. This mini LED are really impressive and give you such a nice watching experience. And plus its black levels really looks identical to an OLED panel. And in here you don't have to worry about any burn-in risk, so you could leave it on a static scene for hours and there will be no issues with that. And finally, it gets way more brighter than OLED. Now Samsung has done a good job improving local dimming algorithm and using this new AI chip is definitely helping. Now, the only issue I still have from the last generation is the panel input lag, which I believe is exactly the same. It's mostly bad for productivity use cases, but in gaming and media consumption, it's never noticeable, at least for me. And of course, if you have any question regarding the QN90D, please don't hesitate to leave a comment or connect with me on Techosaur Discord server for any discussion about it. While it has lots of similarities to its predecessor, the QN90C, but there are some subtle improvements. Later on, I'll make another video featuring the two of them side by side, showing all difference in software options, and we'll do some image quality comparison. So make sure to not miss that one out. At the end, I deeply hope you found this video useful, and if it was the case, please like this video and subscribe to Techosaur to be updated on future content and to support this channel in giving you the in-depth reviews and guide. Also consider becoming a member to further support me and unlock lots of cool stuff. Thanks for watching and support, and see you in the next one.